Hey YouTube, it's your girl, Mrs. Balance Sheet, coming to you with a quick video today. I know I really need to do other videos besides finance related videos, but it comes natural because I'm an accountant. So I am really trying to get more comfortable being in front of the camera, and I have a lot of information to share, and I am as well-rounded as the title of my channel. But it's just easier to do videos about finance for me, at least right now. So I'm gonna stop rambling, and I'm gonna do this video is gonna be a story time video. And it's just something fun, laugh at, my experience, but learn from it or whatever. Especially you young, kids that are high school, college age or whatever. But this story time is about the time I was dead broke. Yes, that's what this video is gonna be about. So this was when I was back in college. I believe it was my sophomore year in college, and it was around Thanksgiving, like November, December. I've always been a good saver. I've always been really good with money. So I had saved, I want to say like I had like $2,500 saved up or something. And so my parents are very strict and they have rules. So the rule is like freshman year in college, no car. I didn't have a car in high school. Freshman year in college, no car. Sophomore year, you bring home good grades, we'll buy you a brand spanking new car, any car that you want or whatever, but it had to be, they did give me a limit. It had to be, it couldn't be, this was in the late 90s, I believe. It was 98, yeah. So the car could not cost more than like $16,000 or $17,000. So back then, these little economy cars I ended up getting a brand new Mitsubishi Mirage. It was like hunter green or whatever. But so I got that at the beginning of sophomore year in college. And another rule my parents had is that I could not work while I was in college. Like your first 2 years of college, they don't allow us to work at all. You just need to, studying is your job. Just need to, bring home the best grades that you can. So this was sophomore year. I'm not working. I don't have a part-time job or anything. So I came home for Thanksgiving break, and my husband, now he's my husband, back then we were just friends. I think he had told me, I knew he liked me, but we were just chilling as friends. So he calls me up and he's like, let's hang out or whatever. It's Thanksgiving break, you're home for Thanksgiving break. So I'm like, cool, great. So he ended up, I think it was our first date. He ended up taking me to, first of all, I had to ask my parents. Yes. So my mom was like, sure, or whatever. And he ended up taking me to, I want to say either Hard Rock Cafe or Planet Hollywood. But I think he picked me up like maybe around like 6 or 7 o'clock. And my curfew, believe it or not, I was like 20 years old and I had a curfew. I had to be back home by midnight. And so I was like really just tired of having a curfew and everything. So something popped up on my phone. I hope you guys can't see that. Anyhow, so I had a curfew. I had to be home by 12 o'clock, by midnight. And we lived, like where I lived versus where we were going was like a 35-40 minute drive alone, because it was in the city downtown. So we picked me up, we had a good time chilling at the Hard Rock Cafe. We ate, we laughed, we had fun, and the time just went by. And before I knew it, it probably was like 11:45 or something, and we were heading back home. But anyway, so I didn't get back home until almost 1 a.m. or after. And I didn't have a cell phone yet either. So I couldn't even call my mom and be like, oh, mommy, I'm running late or whatever. So I got home at 1 o'clock and I just went in my room and, went to bed or whatever. And my husband, he dropped me off and he left. So, remember, this is Thanksgiving break. So the next day was like a Sunday, and then I was leaving to go back to school on Monday or whatever. So I didn't say anything about coming home late or not meeting my curfew. So my parents were cool. They, were like, okay, bye, sent me to school, back to school. And the way they did it back then was that even though I was in college, because I couldn't work, so they gave me an allowance, a weekly allowance. And with that money, I had to manage, that was my spending money, but it also included my gas money. So I had to manage that or whatever. So what I did was I ended up, and somebody just pulled up. I hope they don't like linger outside my car. But I'm in a parking lot of my job. I haven't gone in yet. But anyhow, to make a long story short, they, where was I? Oof. Okay. So, my parents was like, bye, we love you, have fun in school or whatever. And I went on my way, got back to school. And then I think I got my allowance like every Friday. They would deposit it in my account. And so I talked to my mom all week or whatever, because the woman used to call me like all the time and I had to answer the phone, because if I didn't answer the phone, I would be in trouble. And back then, when my mom, I'm 20 years old, being in trouble consists of not getting funds. So, Friday rolls around and I'm like, okay, my money, my allowance is going to be deposited or whatever. I'm checking my account balance or whatever, and it's like, it's low. I didn't have enough money. So I was like, the deposit didn't go through. So I'm like, okay. So, I think I called my mom and she was like, oh, well, don't you have something to say? And I was like, no, mom, I mean, what's up with my allowance? I didn't see it deposited. And she was like, well, you missed your curfew, and only grown women, come in the house anytime they want. And once you're a grown woman and you come in the house anytime you want or whatever, then, I don't need to give you an allowance. So I was like, OMG, this woman is really tripping. So, we hung up or whatever, and I did not apologize for, coming in late or whatever. So, that Friday rolled by. I was good. Back then, this is 1998, so gas was like completely dirt cheap. So I could fill my tank in my little Mitsubishi Mirage for like $10 or whatever. Yeah, it was the good old days for real. But so I let the week go by, and the following Friday, I was having some technical difficulties. My phone ran out of space and it stopped recording. And it's a good thing. Let me tell you, God knows how to put you where you're supposed to be, because I should have been up in this office because I had a client coming. But luckily I got up here, before my client came up here. And even when they come up, they have to stop at the receptionist desk. Anyway, so I lost track of time when I was recording. So, oh my goodness, I got my glasses. Let me take it off. um, I wear glasses, but I hate wearing glasses in social settings, and especially when I'm recording. I like wearing it when I'm working because I need it. And anyhow, so back to my story about the brokest that I've ever been. So I think I left off telling you guys how I called my mom and she was like, "You didn't apologize for coming home late." And I was like, "Okay." So that was like a week had gone by. So then I'm like, dang, my funds are really getting low or whatever. I can't remember what I was down to, but it was really getting low. So I was like, I'm a daddy's girl. So I was like, I'm gonna call daddy, and I know I can get him to deposit the money into my account. So I call my dad and I'm like, hey daddy, like what's going on? And I was like, I didn't even say anything about our problem because um I didn't even say anything. I was pretending like I didn't know why she was mad at me.
So then I'm like, "Ugh, I think mommy forgot to deposit my allowance. So can you just go ahead and deposit it?" And he was like, "Oh," he was like, "How do you do that?" And I'm like, "Daddy, I mean, you go to the bank, I mean, and you get my account number and you just put the money in." And he was like, "Oh, I don't know how to do that." And I'm like, "Are you serious?" He was like, "Yeah, your mom handles the money. Your mom handles the deposits. I don't know how to do that." I'm like, "No, this cannot be happening." I'm like, "Daddy, I'm your little," he used to call me his little professor. But I'm like, "I'm your little professor. Like, I'm your little angel." And he was like, "No, I'm sorry. I'll just ask your mom to do it for me." And I'm like, "Damn, I mean, obviously, you know, it's not going to happen if you asked her." So I didn't get the money. And then time is going by, I'm going to classes or whatever. And I want to say by this point, it's like December, and it's almost time to go back home for Christmas break. So I was at some store or something, and I had checked my account that morning, and I was down to like 16 cents in my checking account. And I want to say like I wanted to get something to eat because I had a meal plan, but it wasn't a full meal plan. I think it was like just one meal a day and then the other two meals a day. I've never been a real breakfast person, so that was like for lunch, and then for dinner I used to like just go and buy something or try to make something in my dorm room or something. So basically, I had 16 cents to my name. I had nothing saved because, like I told you guys earlier, I had saved personally $2,500 to put towards the car that my parents bought me. I put down a down payment, and they put down a down payment also. I think they matched. Yeah, they matched my down payment. So we put down like $5,000, and then they made the payments, my monthly payments, and paid my insurance while I was in college. So my savings was wiped out with the automobile purchase at the beginning of my sophomore year. So I had nothing saved, zero savings. Um, I had 16 cents in my checking account, and I was like, OMG, what am I going to do? I'm not the type of person who borrows money, and I don't think I've ever borrowed money from, anyone, you know. So I'm not the type of person that borrows money. So I'm like, what am I going to do? I didn't have a job because they wouldn't let me work. So, I mean, they had me trapped where, I had to do something. So I had to call my mom, and I called my mom and I apologized for missing curfew at 20 years old, not being home by midnight. And she accepted my apology, and she made a deposit into my account. But the lesson I learned from there on, which made me stronger, but first of all, is to save. Never, ever, ever wipe out your savings account for anything at all, even if it's for a purchase or whatever. So I never, ever completely deplete my savings account. Never, ever. That's the first lesson I learned. And the second lesson I learned was to never, ever be financially dependent on anyone. And of course, when you're a child, you have to be financially dependent on your parents. But at that point, I was 20 years old, sophomore in college. And yes, my parents did continue to pay my college tuition and, all of that. But you better believe, like, while I was studying and everything, I was just preparing myself to be financially independent. Like when I graduated from college, I mean, I've had a blessed life. I've never had to really struggle financially. I mean, that's the brokest I've ever been. But like, I was preparing myself. Like when I graduated from college, I am taking care of me. I'm never going to be dependent on anyone. I'm going to be able to stand on my 2 feet, financially. And that's what that taught me, because if I didn't do what my mom said, She was not giving me allowance, and that is the story of my life. I mean, and it's basically my mom. Like my dad, I mean, he probably would, but he tried not to get involved with like mother daughter issues to keep his marriage happy, probably. Even though he loves and adores me, he doesn't get in between my mom and I issues. He feels like, a woman knows how to raise a girl. So, whatever my mom's issue with me is, like, he let my mom ride it out. And I just suffer. But so that's my story of the time I was down to 16 cents. Like that was my net worth, 16 cents. But that's it. I mean, ever since then, like no matter what I'm going through, I save, and no matter how like little I was making, if I made $100 or whatever, I put $10, in the bank. I pay my tithes and offering, and then I pay myself, and I save, I invest. So, that's my little struggle story. If you have a struggle story, share yours, and share what you learned from it and how you deal with never ever going back to that situation again. But I hope you guys like my story, and it's the truth. And thanks for watching. Bye.